Three guys who could score from anywhere. The most skilled at their size you could ever ask. History of basketball. Who's at their size more skilled than any one of those three guys? The Lakers had no shot. If everyone was healthy this year, it would have been Nets and Lakers. The Lakers would have been thrashed by these Nets. Now they got three dudes. Russell Westbrook's one of them dudes. And let me say something. People are going to get caught up on how it all fits together. That is not the issue here. The issue is bring in the talent. Do they need shooting? Yes. None of these guys are shooters, especially not Westbrook for his position. But can you find shooters? You think guys won't play on the vet minimum for this team? Of course they will. Whether they wind up with Kevin Love or they figure out a sign and trade with three-team deal, they still have Schroeder, Talen Horton-Tucker. Those guys aren't great fits. Could they still swing something for Buddy Hield? Who knows? They'll be just fine. And one more thing about Russell Westbrook. Every single year, 3-4 years now, he's on a new team with new teammates. First half of the season, we're all like, Westbrook's finished. He's no good anymore. Because he's trying to figure things out because contrary to popular belief among some, he is a team player. He's trying to figure out how to help the team. Second half, he's figured it out. He's learned his teammates. He knows his role. And then in the second half of every year, we go, he's having an MVP caliber second half. I expect the same thing to happen this year. Stephen A., if the Lakers are healthy, this is a real series if the Nets are healthy. It wouldn't have been before. It is now.
Well, that's really stepping out on the limb. It's a real series. Really? That's all you got? Because let me tell you something. That's obvious, Max Kellerman. There's no question that it's going to be a series if they were to meet. There's no question that it's a formidable big three, and the Lakers deserve a boatload of credit. Rob Pelinka, way to go in terms of assembling this and pulling this trade off, which obviously has happened. And I think Russell Westbrook is worth it. We all know he's a superstar. We all know he's a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. We know at the age of 32 going on 33, he's still electrifying. He's still the most athletic point guard in the history of the National Basketball Association. And the fact that you got him with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, Lord have mercy. It almost makes it to a point where it might be, we might all need to be medicated for depression if we don't get this finals. Brooklyn versus Los Angeles next season.
I think it's going to happen.
If you
I really do. I really do. This year was odd.
But even injuries would disappoint it because we're all salivating for it now more than ever. Okay. But this has to be said, and I got to be, let me make sure I'm very careful. Because I suspect the Westbrook family might be watching. Let me make sure I'm very clear with what I'm trying to say. There will never, or there will never have been more pressure on Russell Westbrook for this upcoming season. This is the most pressure that he has been through in his career. Now, to be fair to him, he doesn't give a damn. Russell Westbrook don't care about much. He a rough rider. He's pig-headed. He's strong-willed. Whatever word, phrase you want to think is appropriate. He don't give a damn. But from the outside world looking at him, more than ever before, his resume is going to come into play. The triple doubles. Remember when I was controversial, Max and Molly, because I was talking about I didn't care about a 35, 21, and 14 performance. People misconstrued. I'm hating on Westbrook. No, I'm saying that Russell Westbrook is so phenomenal. Russell Westbrook is such a talent that we don't want to see you going home in the first round. We know you could do that. The point is we already done. Think about it, Max. When did we ever think we'd get to a point where the triple-double didn't matter to us? It doesn't when it comes to him because it's ordinary. It's what he does. He's a walking triple-double. We got that part, okay? Now it's about my brother, Kevin Durant left, and 4 times in 5 years you went home in the first round. 5 times you've been home. Once you went to Houston and you lost in the second round your lone year there. These are your teammates. I'm going to remind everybody again. Kevin Durant, Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, Victor Oladipo, Paul George, James Harden again, Bradley Beal, and now LeBron James. And that talent that is Russell Westbrook, surefire, first ballot, undeniable Hall of Famer, By the way, box office, you walk through the turnstiles to see a brother like that.
Yeah.
You walk through the turnstiles to see a
Gives
Russell
you
Westbrook.
everything he has every night.
Russell Westbrook's got over $200 million and nobody blinked because we know he deserves it. We know he deserves it because he gives it to you every day. He never cheats the game with his effort. But at some point in time, we're going to be like, where's the chip? And this is where it gets real dicey for him. Because you were with Kevin Durant and you were taking shots people felt Kevin Durant should have been taking. Then you had your time and you became Mr. Triple-Double. Then you had Harden, who's your boy. And Harden and you ended up not wanting to play together. You go with Bradley Beal, who's one of the top 2 leading scorers in the league, him and Steph Curry last season, okay? And you with Bradley Beal. Of course, you got to the first round, but at the time that, everybody was upset with what I said, they were 13 games under 500 in the Eastern Conference. So now you've overcome. Now, all of that's aside. You wanted out of D.C. They gave it to you, and they put you in your hometown. This is a UCLA product. This is L.A. This is an L.A. dude. Any kind of hype, any kind of energy, any kind of fervor that we have seen from Russell Westbrook is expected to elevate even more significantly. So when you look at all of those things and the fact that if LeBron James alone was your teammate, they would have expectations. But now you got LeBron and Anthony Davis. There has never been, ever in the career of Russell Westbrook where the eye of the storm will be on him, because we're all going to be looking to see how he messes, how he ingratiates himself within their system, playing with LeBron and AD. And I believe they go into the finals. I believe that if they were healthy anyway, but who won 3 championships in that period of time. And I had to suffer what I had to suffer through the last 2 years. The only person hungrier than me, or just as hungry as me, might be Draymond Green. That's about it. They can't wait for Klay to come back. Klay can't wait to come back. And Klay, one of the top 5 shooters in basketball history, and a Hall of Famer already, the opportunity that Steph is looking at for them to reunite, with everybody talking about the Lakers and the Clippers and Phoenix and all of this other stuff, Lord have mercy. Look out for the Golden State Warriors. They are coming.
Steph Curry, I'm going to need a lower third for him pretty soon, the way you have it for LeBron, Stephen A., because I'm accused of being a lower third. I'm going to need one for Steph when I talk about him, the way you need one for LeBron. Great family man, philanthropist, et cetera. Because I'm accused of being a Steph Curry hater.
It's true.
One of my favorite players in any sport ever to watch, a miraculous player to put your eyes on. I point out that something like in overtime, in a win-or-go-home game this season, it's not just that they lost. He scored 0 points. I just pointed that out. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. He's a great player. But I point that out.
I just think it's important, Max, that you remind people at the time you had more hair, no crew cut on the side, and you didn't have any facial hair. That's the last time. That's when that was going on with Steph Curry. I just want to let the world know that.
No. I mean this season. This season when they made the play-in game.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
The reason that doesn't even occur to you because it wasn't reported. No one noticed it. But in overtime, in a win-or-go-home game, this season, he scored 0 points. And no one bats an eye. Could you imagine if that was LeBron James, who scored 0 points in overtime of a win-or-go-home game? We would be killing him. And that's because LeBron is compared to the GOAT, Michael Jordan. He is playing against a ghost for the title of greatest of all time. He's running out of time. He's getting up there in age. He has a super team around him, even though it's imperfect parts, but it's still super talented. You always bring up, if I say, hey, could Steph ever be the greatest player ever? You talk about his height, and you'd be right. He's 6'3". He's the greatest 6'3" or under player ever, but because he's 6'3", he ain't ever going to be the greatest player who ever lived, right? He's already reached the mountaintop of what he's capable of doing in terms of his own legacy that way.
We thought that coming into last year, and look at what he did last year.
Because he's great. He was as good as he's ever been. And he's great, but he is not challenging MJ. That's what LeBron's up against. He does not have 6 championships. He does have a super team around him. No excuses. He is LeBron James. He's facing the most pressure, like we were just talking about. and he's got to be the most motivated.
I'm going to say something to you, Max Kellerman. I think you need to buckle your seatbelt for what I'm about to say because it's really true. You're right. Steph doesn't compare to MJ. Size and height has something to do with it. His lack of defensive prowess has a lot to do with it because he certainly was not even close to the defender that Michael Jordan did. But offensively, I can make a conversation that Steph Curry is in the conversation of MJ. We have never seen a shooter this phenomenal. Ever. Ever. And let's understand. And see, no, he didn't have the aerial assault. He didn't have the aerial arsenal that Michael Jordan had. Couldn't finish at the basket the way Michael Jordan could or whatever. Steph Curry, we usually see offensive players, Max, and with the exception of a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain that's over 7 feet tall and dominant because of their height and size and the skyhook, of course, we usually look at guys, and there's not a single player that we look at and we say Michael Jordan couldn't do that. We didn't see LeBron. We don't see LeBron. We didn't see Kobe, Vince Carter, or anybody else do anything that we felt Michael Jordan couldn't do offensively. Michael Jordan couldn't shoot like that.
Well, if you want to say
nobody could shoot like that.
If you want, no doubt. If you want to say foot for foot, Steph is the best offensive player ever. Fine, but
no,
you know what else Michael Jordan couldn't do?
I'm not saying he's the best. I'm just saying that as an offensive talent, because of Steph Curry's marksman ability, because of his ability to just shoot with his eyes closed. We made a big deal about what Michael Jordan did at the free throw line, closing his eyes and hitting the free throw against the Kemba Mutombo and the Atlanta Hawks. We are seeing Steph Curry shoot 40-foot jump shots.
Okay, let me ask you a different way.
We can't say anything.
Is there any universe ever where Michael Jordan could play overtime of a win-or-go-home game and score 0 points in any universe? It would never happen. It happened to Steph. No one bats an eye. I'm not bringing it up to hate on Steph. I'm bringing it up to say the standards are different for Steph because he's shorter than a guy like LeBron.
Let's not just point shorter. Let's point the fact that, again, because you're relatively smaller, his movement without the ball, you're required to do all of that because you ain't posting anybody up. You got to run through picks and screens. You got somebody that constantly has their hand on you. You're not 6'6", 220. You're not LeBron 6'9", 260. I'm just saying, the point is the physicality could get to you. I understand that. So that's why I'm saying I wouldn't say better. But when you talk about pure skill as it pertains to whatever your skill set may be, Steph Curry is in the conversation as one of the greatest offensive players to have ever played basketball simply because in no era have we ever seen somebody. Yeah, we've seen spot-up shooters. We've seen jump shooters. We've seen catch-and shooters, those guys. But in terms of dribbling the basketball and creating your own shot off the dribble, along with all of those things that I just mentioned,
range.
There has never, ever, ever been a shooter and I go back to days, Max, downtown Freddie Brown, Dale Ellis. You understand what I'm saying? Before Ray Allen, Allen Houston, Reggie Miller, Chris Mullin, and all of these boys, Ricky Pierce and those crew. I mean, the list goes to Andrew Toney. You remember that? I mean, the list goes on and on. We have never, ever, ever seen. Guy, and I don't consider us haters. I mean, God forbid I say LeBron's number 2 all time. Stop the presses. What an incredible insult in the history of basketball. There's only one player that I have better than him. I mean, my God, just stop the presses. But the point is this. LeBron already has a chip in an LA uniform. Mm-hmm. And we expected him to be back this year if it were not for the injuries. If Russell Westbrook comes there and they're healthy and they don't find a way to get it done, I mean, listen, you're gonna recognize Russell Westbrook's individual greatness. But there's gonna be a lot of questions about team. Remember, he wants to play his way. In Houston, he wanted to play his way. He told Houston that. I want to play my way. It worked
when they did.
Would you guys take the Lakers right now?
I'm talking about to depart Houston. He was telling them, I want to play my way. I don't want to play Harden's way. I don't want to be his sidekick. I want to do what I do. When he arrived in Houston and Mike D'Antoni was coaching, I'm just going to do what I do. Russell Westbrook is known as a guy who says, I'm going to do it my way.
Two things. One, LeBron is the one player in the league who might have the gravitas to bring Russell Westbrook, the gravity to bring Russell Westbrook into the fold. That wasn't KD. They were contemporaries, and Westbrook had a very strong personality. And at times you could squint and who's better. That's LeBron is he's the guy challenging Jordan. But there's a guy challenging LeBron right now, which puts extra emphasis on what's going on, and that's KD.
Right.
Yeah.
KD is crewed up. KD's never won. Hold on. KD's never won a title when he hasn't had basically an unfair advantage.
Right.
It looks like he has one again. Now LeBron has just enough where we can look at both of these guys and say, no excuses. Whose league is it?
That's a fair argument about LeBron, Max, if we're talking about the finals has arrived and now it's Brooklyn versus LA. I'm saying before you get to that, just coming into the season, there is no question that there is more pressure on Russell Westbrook than it is on LeBron James. That's how I view it.
Well,
that's how I view it.
Westbrook, a lot of times in the first half, because he has a certain way of playing, it takes the team and him time to get used to each other. But the second half, Westbrook's always balling. Think about Houston. Think about Washington.
Nobody said
always second half. Oh my God, look at this guy.
Nobody said he isn't balling. What we're talking about are final results. When you are the point guard, you're not just responsible for how you play. You're responsible for how the team plays. Now, if you're a scorer, you're a big man, something like that, it's on you. But when you're the point guard.
Is there anything
Okay, hold on. Final results. So right now, who would you be taking? Are you taking the Nets or the Lakers?
Nets at this moment.
I would take the Nets.
But I don't think the Lakers are done. I think there are veterans, like let's keep an eye on Kevin Love. Let's keep an eye on Buddy Hield. Let's keep an eye on shooters and vets who might take the minimum, not that those guys would, who want to join a team like that.
Max is right.
You know, they have to play with shooters.
Max is
You're
right.
You're both taking the Nets, even with Russell Westbrook.
Here's a more direct statement. With Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, the Lakers' total squad, as presently constructed, would not beat a healthy Brooklyn Nets.
Probably not. Not at the moment. But I don't think they're done. I don't think they're done. The Nets just added 5 draft picks. Give the Lakers a minute to see what they do.
Again, of course, that's a given. But like I've religiously stated on this show, Kyrie shot 92% from the free throw line last year. James Harden shot 86%. Kevin Durant was around 87, 88%. Religiously, they're 85 or better. LeBron James shot 69% from the free throw line last season and has been struggling the last 3 years from the free throw line. And over the last 2 years, specifically this past season, Russell Westbrook shot 65% from the free throw line. Playoff basketball, the game slows, okay? The open court opportunities aren't there the way they are during the regular season. And when you get into a half-court set, which LeBron is an absolute master at, but then you go to the free throw line, let me assure you, there is no way in hell the Lakers will shoot better from the free throw line than the Brooklyn Nets. And that matters. Even though the Lakers might get to the line more because they're bigger and they'll attack the basket more.
The difference is this. The Lakers have, of the big three, the Lakers have better raw athletes, size, strength. The Nets have more skilled players scoring the ball. At his size, Kyrie Irving scoring the ball, you can argue, is the best who ever did it. Same thing with Harden, same thing with KD. So you have 3 of the GOATs scoring the basketball at their size, history of the game. That is tough to beat. The Lakers' athletic ability, size, defense, and kind of basketball IQ, all that stuff that they have probably isn't enough if they're both healthy. But no other team is going to stand in those teams' way. That series is going games, and I need to see what else the Lakers do. Because, Stephen A., if they plug in 2 knockdown shooters on this team to go with those 3, who knows?
One more thing before we move on. How much more longevity does this give LeBron James when we're talking about time to win championships?
Well, I'm not thinking about it from that standpoint, Molly. I'm thinking that both teams, Brooklyn and L.A., have 2 years. Now, don't mind you. All 3.
Why Brooklyn?
All 3. Well, I'm just saying 2 years to show what they're going to do.
Oh,
in other words,
I thought you meant championship window.
I think the league is on the come up, and I think that if you don't win a title within the next 2 years, you ain't going to do it. As presently constructed.
There's one more team.
That's how I view both teams.
Okay.
Both teams.
There's one more team that we have to keep our eye on who could throw a monkey wrench, and that's the Warriors, because they have Klay coming back with Steph. They have Dre. And they have so much other stuff. Like they've been shopping it. They've been trying to do something, haven't been able to do it. But Wiseman, Wiggins, multiple lottery picks that they wound up using. Poole. You know, they have a lot of stuff, so we got to keep our eye on them. But barring some big move by the Warriors, it's just the Lakers.
I don't know how many times I've had to say on this show, I mean, you ain't going to find a bigger Klay Thompson fan than me. And if Klay Thompson is healthy and Steph Curry is healthy, the Warriors are going to the conference finals.
Conference finals, but it ends there if they don't make a move.
A minimum. That's how I view the Golden State Warriors. That's how significant I think Klay Thompson, a healthy Klay Thompson, is to that